Hello and welcome everybody to part 4 of this review, and we're just going to pick up right where we left off, talking about the PvP and online. So I'm going to begin by talking about the camera. Now, the camera's bad, okay? I'm pretty sure we all know this already. It needs to be fixed, like, you know, it's like, again, we know this already. It has to be said because it's a problem that's persisted into Slopeclap's newest title, Sifu, and you know, I'm quite confident they can fix it. Like, it's just, I don't know if they're particularly aware of this, but I mean, they kind of already have a solution to this problem, and it's on one of the maps, one of the stages, the forest stage, right? Not the swamp, the forest stage with that tree. Yeah. Don't tell me that y'all can't fix the camera, Slopeclap, because I know that y'all can, because it's right here, like in this tree example on this stage here. Notice how that the camera just kind of fades the tree out here. Like, why can't it do that with the walls? Like, what is that tree special or something? Is it a special kind of object? Why can't the walls be made like the tree? You know, like have the same properties as that tree to be faded out by the camera. You know, like I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Maybe that tree is just special, but like, I think that tree is the key to fixing the camera, you know? Like, cause it's extremely important. I mean, for any 3D fighter, right? To just have a camera that does not get obscured by objects, you know? So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the camera in this game, but I'm quite sure. Well, I'm pretty positive that if Slopeclap could get the camera to work the way it works around that tree, you know, that it fades the tree out, and if he could do that with the walls, that would be fantastic, honestly. Like, that would be a major improvement, just that fix alone, you know. Alright, fine, we got that knocked out. Alright, it had to be said. I just had to put that out there before I forgot about it. Moving on, the next thing I want to talk about is this game's netcode. You know, like the online, right? The connection. If I'm not mistaken, Absolver's netcode is peer-to-peer, right? And it basically works like Call of Duty connection, you know, like in COD. If the connection gets spotty, you start sliding and teleporting all over the place, or you get extra hit markers. Absolver is kind of like that, except instead of hit markers, your attacks start going through people, or their attacks start going through you, and you know, there's quite a bit of teleporting going on, and a lot of skipping around, and like attack skipping animations and shit. And you know, this even extends to the open world, where sometimes some funky shit will happen every time somebody new will enter the area, assuming that the area isn't already filled up. But at least in the open world, you can stop that from happening by setting the world to invite only, and the social options. But when it comes to the online, you're kind of just at the mercy of whoever's host, and yeah, that ain't great. If you don't know this already, rollback netcode is the future of fighting games. It's like, ever since it became like a thing, right? Like, it's just not all rollback netcode is equal. right? But it would vastly improve this game's online experience if it were a thing in this game. But I'm not. The thing is, I'm not quite sure if rollback would even work in this game. Like I'm not sure if it can even be implemented. Like at all even. I don't know, but like if it could, then it should, right? Because having rollback in this game is better than having in a fighting game is better than having no rollback at all. Like nothing else is even comparable. Like the late-based netcode is trash, right? This netcode, this COD netcode is pretty trash as well. I think I said this earlier, but like not all rollback is equal. But it's like the smoothest way you can have. It's like the best way you can provide like the smoothest possible experience currently in this day and age for fighting games. All right, like if you've ever played a fighting game with rollback netcode, like it's buttery smooth the whole way through, no matter who's host. Well, usually buttery smooth, unless you have like absolute trash connection that it actually starts messing with the rollback frames, right? You get like some skipping around, right? Like it's the smoothest thing ever. All right, there's no skipping around. It's smooth the whole way through. There's no lag. There's no the game turning into a slideshow. It's just great, you know. And you know, like I don't know. It's just it's really just the best thing possible. Like any fighting game in this day and age should have rollback netcode. It would like just the mere mention of a fighting game having rollback netcode, right, is a selling point, all right, because people really value those smooth online connections, right? And like that's the smoothest way, that's the best way to provide the smoothest possible experience for online in any fighting game, rollback netcode. So yeah, I mean, if it can be done, it should be done for this game. Just saying. Okay, moving on. Now this next point of mine may be a hot take, but you know, I might be crazy, but I have to say this because it's been bugging me. Like it's just one of those things that's also been really bugging me. I legitimately think that some moves are bugged, like some attacks are bugged, and like people will say that. Some people will say that it's just due to the connection, like whoever's host, whatever, right? But like, if that were true, then wouldn't every attack just kind of behave the same way? Like whenever the connection gets spotty, right? That you don't get the actual like advantage that you're supposed to get, because let me break it down. Like every attack gives you a certain amount of advantage, right? Well, most attacks, right? But there are some, however, that don't give you that advantage, and like under certain circumstances with the connection, right? Maybe, I don't know, but like to me that just makes it seem like if it's just only certain attacks, not every other attack, then that means those certain attacks that don't give you what you're supposed to have, right? That just means that they're bugged. They're either bugged or they never actually give you the advantage, right? So the advantage on block, right? So like this happened to me a few times. The most notable example that I have, right, is when I was fighting this one dude, right, and I was doing spin back fist into low back fist, right, and after I did spin back fist, he tried to jam me out with his low back fist, and I was doing low back fist at the same time as his, and then he beat me from that interaction. Like, he was blocking, and I go linked low back fist from spin back fist. So like, spin back fist is supposed to have 2 frames on advantage on block, right? So that means my low back fist was actually 10-ish frames, because it's one of those faster 12 frame attacks, right? 12 frames, quote unquote. So like, how the hell did he hit me there? I'm like, I'm not crazy. I goat linked and he still beat me. I've looked at this clip like I don't know, like 100 times. I've recreated it in fucking in the practice. Well, I guess there's no point in recreating it in a practice mode now that I think about it. But like man, look at it. Look at it. Look. There's no way that should have happened. Like, what the heck? What the fuck? I just, bruh, how? Just, how does that happen? I goat linked that shit. I know I did. Don't tell me I didn't. And you know, it's not just, it's not just some moves too. This extends to some other shit as well, like the styles and oh, we'll get to that later. And also, like, I've also encountered this with the guard breaks. Like when I break somebody, well, not the guard break attacks, but like when I go to break somebody's guard, right, and they're stunned, right, I'm supposed to have like, I don't know, 30 something frames of advantage, right? But like, so I do, like in this example, I'm gonna do temple knock into guts punch, right, after I had broken my opponent's stamina, and somehow he was able to defend against my guts punch. Like, what the, how? Did I not get my, unless I'm mistaken, like I'm supposed to be able to get stuff like that off a guard after breaking somebody's guard, right? How was he able to block that? Like, I get, is it bugged? Is that mechanic bugged, or am I just sorely mistaken? Because that doesn't seem right. Okay, it ain't right. It just isn't, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping balls, man. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe I'm just crazy, bruh. But that just trips me up so much. I don't even know anymore, man. I mean, I guess I'm actually in the wrong, because according to the game, I mean, yes, my opponent could still parry. Yes, I actually was negative after spin back fists. So I mean, I just, like, that guard break example, like I could legitimately be mistaken, right? Maybe I don't actually have that much advantage after I break somebody's guard, but that spin back fist thing, right? You can't tell me that move is bugged. Like, okay, look, maybe one of two things is happening. Either some moves are bugged or the frame data is way off. Speaking of which, the frame data is actually wrong about quite a few moves. Whether it's wrong about spin back fist, well, I mean, I'm not bruh. I'm not even sure anymore, but I do know it is wrong about quite a few moves. All right, like some moves are actually faster than the frame data in this game would have you believe, and some are actually a bit slower, right? Like, take for example knife hand strike. Knife hand strike is like an 8-frame move. All right, ankle stamp. It's like, it ain't 11 frames. It's like 12 frames. Maybe like 11.9, 11.8. But now trust me, I've used it before. It's 12 frames, I swear. I swear. At least I promise. I can't. And then there's drunk crane. This drunk crane, and that one's like 11.8. I've heard it's either like 11.8 or like 11.5. And then there's back Ura, you know, that's like, that move is legit like 11 frames, bro. You can't tell me otherwise, you know. Low back fist as well, one of the faster, again, like faster 12-frame moves, quote unquote. Like that shit's faster than it looks. All right, and like. In like fast cross, one of the slower 12-frame moves, right? Like it's 12.4. Like, I don't know, man. Like, are these moves like secretly floating point numbers or something? Like, I don't know, man. Like decimal numbers? Cause there's a lot of things about these moves that just aren't making sense, right? They just, you know, and those were just a few examples, all right? The ones I could think of off the top of my head. There's definitely more, for sure. Those are the more infamous ones, I think. More well-known ones, too. But yeah, like some moves that have inaccurate frame data, or they're just straight up bugs, you know? Like, that's not how that's supposed to be. Like, moves, first of all, frame data has to be accurate. That's number one. Second of all, the connection is not supposed to be able to mess with how much advantage you get from a move, okay? From an attack. Alright? Like, no, I don't think it's a connection issue. I think it's because some moves are legitimately bugged. Alright? In the connect, and it's like, in the connections just kind of like, it's like if it's messing with the frame data, right? If a spotty connection is enough to mess with the frame data of some moves, that means that move is bugged. Like like otherwise, because it has to, because otherwise, like, why isn't that behavior like consistent with all the rest of the moves, right? Like, I don't know. I guess I could be wrong on this. I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point, but like that definitely needs to get taken care of. Like, that needs to get looked at for sure, because that is absolutely frustrating. Okay, like I know I'm stressing over some numbers and what moves are doing what and what they're supposed to do, but like, this stuff is actually very important in a fighting game. Okay, all right. Like, you need to have the accurate frame data, alright? Because then you have shit happening like this, where people feel like they're getting robbed and shit, alright? It's bullshit, okay? It's bullshit. Well, anyway, the next thing I wanna talk about is the health bars and stamina, particularly how your opponent's health bar and stamina is displayed, right? Like, I think when you get into like a duel, like a 1v1 duel with somebody, like in combat trials, I think the health bar, the opponent's health bar and stamina bar should be like displayed like at the top of the screen, like a traditional fighter. because like sometimes with the health bar being the opponent's health bar visually being displayed like the way it currently is over their head, it's kind of small and it's kind of hard to determine how much health and stamina they have left. I mean, again, this is kind of a nitpick, but I mean, like, it has legitimately costed me some games. Like, because like, I know this is gonna be a thing that happens still regularly, still in more traditional fighters, right? Where you think you've killed somebody with an attack, and then it turns out they have like a sliver of health left. But in my experience with Absolver, I found that, you know, whether my opponent has like a sliver of health left or like just a tiny bit of stamina left, that's like legit cost me, because I thought I go in thinking, oh, I've already beaten them, like, but no, actually they were still alive. I could have finished it. If I had like one more blow, I could have. If I kept going just a little bit more, I could have finished it. Or if I had just been a bit more patient, I would have waited out their stamina, or I wouldn't have gotten hit, or whatever, you know. And like, that has legit costed me. I feel like that's a more common occurrence in Absolver than it is in more traditional fighters. Again, it's like a nitpick, but it's just something I wanted to bring up. Cause, you know, I just thought maybe it could be more helpful, you know, overall, to just have it be displayed in a more traditional manner. The opponent health bar and stamina bar. Now, the next thing that definitely is not a nitpick and it's definitely a necessity is like being able to see your opponent's shards, their resources, you know. Like, it's extremely imperative that you know what your opponent has to work with in order to be able to make effective decisions against them, right? Like, you can, like, this is, yeah, I'm going back to the powers thing. This is mainly about powers, but like, it's important because in any fighting game where you have like a resource that you can build up to use against your opponent, like, you need to be able to see that stuff, like, not just your stuff but the opponent's stuff as well, right? Like, because like I said, you need to be able to make effective decisions against them, you know, like to see what to anticipate. Like, you can never be quite sure when they're going to bust out a power or something like that, right? But like, being able to see if they can do that is very helpful. It's extremely helpful, okay? And the fact that you're not able to do that, well, I mean, you're just kind of stuck guessing constantly instead of being able to properly anticipate it. Because, you know, like if you'll never really know, right? You'll never be quite sure. Like, you just kind of have to just deal with it in Absolver. But like, the way it should be, right, is that you should be able to see how many shards your opponent has. All right. That way you can effectively bait out whatever power they're gonna try to use against you. Because like people love to, like, sometimes you come across people who just love to just use powers, like, you know, especially when you have like a will stat that lets you just get shards really quickly if you invest enough points into it. Like, it's this all the more imperative that we be able to see each other's shards, okay? Like let's take Guilty Gear again as an example. In Guilty Gear, you have two like resources. Every character has like two resources they can use. Some characters have more, but like in Guilty Gear, everybody has a burst bar. Everybody has a tension bar, alright, that they can spend. And some characters have like an extra resource that lets them do certain things. Alright, like certain characters. Like that's a special thing. Don't worry about that. But mainly we're gonna go over the burst and the tension gauge. Now, the reason I'm focusing on these two resources here is that both of these can be used to like change the tide of the battle, right? In the way that powers and Absolver can be used to, like, you know, like change the reverse pressure, you know, basically. Burst will knock people away, and you can use it at any time as long as it's full. Alright, so if the opponent's not anticipating it, they will get knocked away. And when it comes to the tension gauge, that green bar at the bottom, right, it can be used defensively as well, or like as a way to reverse pressure, right? Like, so mainly what people will do in Guilty Gear is that they will wake up super. They will use their overdrives, as it's called in this game, and they will do it on wake up when they get knocked down, after they get knocked down. And basically it's a Invincible Reversal, basically. And what that means is that the minute they get up and they input the super, right, they are invincible for like on frame 1, meaning that if you try to attack them while they're getting up, you're the one that's going to get hit because your attack's going to go right through them. So what you do is, if you're paying attention, you can anticipate these options that your opponent has, right? So like, say if my opponent bursts, right, tries to burst, right, well, if I'm anticipating it, I can just block it, right? I can stop what I'm doing, assuming I'm not using a move that has a lot of recovery on it. I can just block the burst, and it's still my turn. I get to keep the pressure, all right? I don't get knocked away that very much. I'm still up in their face. Additionally, like, if I'm really ready for it, right, I can actually backdash the burst and then punish and get like a full combo from that, and there's nothing they can do to get out of it. And you know, as far as the overdrives go, like the invincible wake ups, right? Well, if I try to run up on Soul here, try to kick him, I'm gonna get hit. I'm gonna get counter hit because I wasn't ready. I wasn't paying attention to his resources. He could do that. But if I anticipate him waking up, doing super, I can block it and punish him, or I could overdrive him. I can hit him with my own overdrive instead, since it's also an Invincible Reversal. So yeah, that's just what I mean when I say, like, it's important to know what your opponent's resources are, to know what they're working with, because that's where you can properly anticipate and counter what they're trying to do. I mean, that's the real mind games of it all, you know. That without knowing what they have, right? You just there's no mind games to be done. Like, there's no anticipation. There's no real hard decision making to be done. Like, this is kind of important, especially since Absolver, with the way Absolver has this how their powers work in Absolver, right? With the will stat and the shards and all that. You know, like I mentioned before, that's kind of an oversight. Like, you absolutely need to be able to see your opponent's resources. In Absolver, there's not very much counterplay to the powers in this game. Like, you just have to really anticipate it, and even then, like, you're never gonna be sure. You're absolutely in the dark about whether or not they could use their powers, especially if someone has dumped like a ton of points into their will stat. All right, like, you just kind of SOL. Like, outside of silence, right? There's no real counterplay against powers. All right. I think that being able to see your opponent's resources will help in that regard, right? I mean, like, yeah, you could still work around this issue. Like, if they just use their power, just use your power, you know, right after, or, you know, just use silence, right? Like, yeah, you could still do that. It's just, you know, given how quickly you could build up like shards in this game, because, you know, will stat. You can someone could invest a ton of points into that. Like, you know, once you're out of shards and your opponent is not, and they can build shards faster than you, what you gonna do then, right? You ain't got nothing. Like, you're SOL. You're shit out of luck. You just kind of have to take it, right? And at that point, then there's no counterplay. All right. Like, sure, you can anticipate it, but like, you need it. It needs to be an extremely hard read, and like, you know, like, it's just, you know, and on top of that, it's just kind of annoying, really. Like, you know, once you get to a certain level, look, powers are just kind of there, and anybody who just kind of really relies on them a whole bunch is, it's annoying when you can't just, you don't have an immediate way to deal with it, right? So, like, if you could see their resources, then you would be able to properly anticipate this stuff if you don't have any other options, right? So, that was my main point. That was what I was getting at. Alright, I don't mean to sound like I'm bitching about powers, but, you know, that I think the point that I made here was a valid one. You're more than welcome to disagree, but, you know, I just thought it was something that could be said, you know, given how this game works, you know, an issue, you know, it's something I thought was an issue with how it works. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for this part of the review. This whole section, yeah, too. You know, like, I'm done with the PvP online section. I'm done with this part. Man, I thought I was gonna be able to upload this right after that last part, but, you know, besides the rendering, because that took a while, I had some complications uploading that video. So, and now it is past midnight, so I think, by the time you see this, it's gonna be, you know, the next, well, it is the next day, but like, it'll be later on in the day, you know. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 5, and yeah, till then, have a good one, y'all. Peace.